What's the darkest side of humanity you've ever seen? Not nearly as bad as anything else I've read here, but the ATM-like machine in a Vegas casino that let you take out a second mortgage on your home was easily one of the most evil things I've seen. The day after Christmas sale at a major department store. The gift wrap was half price. A woman keeled over onto the floor with what appeared to be a heart attack. People continued shopping over the top of her legs. Store employees had to form a circle around her to try to get her blocked off from the crowd. Ambulance crew had to nearly fight their way through the crowd to get to her. No one would move. The attempt at rescue took far longer than it should have. Even when she was on the gurney being taken out, people were still shoving the crew. Not me, but my cousin, a U.S. Marine, was in Kosovo during the ethnic cleansing. He has never been the same. Since leaving the Marines, has not been able to hold a job. Before he left, he was light-hearted and hilarious. Now, he's like a shell of his former self. I worked in child protection, so I saw a lot. Worst was an 8-year-old that had been trafficked and abused for 4 years and killed herself at 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, my babysitter, 16 years old, died in a traffic accident. She was also my neighbor's daughter. My neighbor, the girl's mom, was of course heartbroken. Since the girl who died was a popular girl, the address was in the newspaper, so people knew where to send their respect letters. At the night of the condolences ceremony, burglars broke into my neighbor's home and stole whatever they could find, including stuff from her daughter that had just died. After finding out what happened, I developed a very dark and disgusted view on humanity from a young age. On the way home from work last year, I found a burning body on the freeway off-ramp. Someone killed that person, set them on fire, and dumped them. It was early morning and foggy. No one else stopped but me. The police said no one else even called it in. Families racing from a relative's funeral to the deceased person's house to fight over their belongings. When I lived in Harlem, New York, I was hopelessly addicted to heroin. The way they sell it up north, it comes packaged in bundles of little envelopes with stamps on them to signify which batch the dope was from. At some point, dealers started spiking the H with fentanyl. If someone died off a particular bag, all the junkies, including myself, would rush to find out what the stamp was and who was selling the stamp so we could go get that specific dope. The theory was that if someone died from it, then it was strong and good. This was the insanity of the disease of addiction, which I thrived in for quite some time. Saw a lot of friends crash and burn. Since the question asks about the things I have personally seen and not the things that have happened in the world or are going on, I'll go with this. So this one time I found a sponge ball with a smiley face on it lying around in the ground. We have these here as stress-busting balls. This ground is a place where there have been fights, BW animal feeders, and local residents. So without much thought I picked up the ball and squished it, 'cause well, it's spongy you know. Guess what? My hand starts bleeding, BCZ, there are a bunch of nails inside. I figured BCZ of the altercations I've seen here before, someone put nails in the ball and threw it so some dog bites on it and gets hurt. I can't even say if some dog did get hurt inside the mouth, and this perhaps is not a big deal, considering the things we see every day, but for someone to take their anger out on an animal like that, BCZ, they don't agree with people feeding them there. This act must come from the lowest, darkest side of their humanity. Human trafficking. I was involved in CSEM production when I was no more than 3 years old. I won't go into too much detail, but the things I went through were some of the most disgusting and vile parts of humanity. I still feel guilt for things I was forced to do, even though I was just a toddler when I had to do them. Personally, I was shot at as a toddler by some ex-military freak, getting over a really bad breakup and deciding to take it out on a kid, me. He was trying to shoot my dog too. Still haven't quite got over that. Still haven't quite got over most things that happened to me during that era of my life. The darkest side of humanity I've ever heard about for sure is Unit 731, or what Japan did to China during WW2. Working as an adolescent health nurse, reading the histories of so many young people and what their families, friends, and strangers have done to them. Worst of all is adolescents who believe that these people care about/love them, and remain in horrific situations by their own choice. My husband's relatives, his uncle and his family, who run from war in Ukraine, were shot by Russian troops. Parents died immediately. Older daughter, 15 years old, has been lost for more than a year. They found her remains recently. She died from pain shock.